Hi everyone, it's me, Jada, your host, and I just want to start with a disclaimer for this video. I just want to say that I'm not claiming any of the information that I share as my own. I'm basically just providing information or my research that I found and then adding my own commentary or my own interpretation and personal experience and personal advice. So the links to the sources will be in the episode details/notes below. And yeah. So now that that's out the way, I want to get into the topic for this next episode, stepping outside of your comfort zone, where we'll dive into what it is, why you should do it, and how to go about it. So let's talk about it. All right, so just to start off, we're going to talk about what is stepping outside of your comfort zone, or what is your comfort zone. So when I did research, I found on Royston Guest, it said that your comfort zone is a behavioral state which you operate in an anxiety neutral condition, using a limited set of behaviors to deliver a steady level of performance, usually without a sense of risk, fear, or aspiration. So basically, wherever you are just kind of neutral, where you're not really pushing yourself any further, you're not putting yourself down, but you're not lifting yourself up, basically. Okay, why should we step out of our comfort zone? Like, what is the point? What is the purpose? Why can't I just stay in my comfort zone? In my research, I found that performance increases as stress increases, and performance decreases as stress decreases. And to a certain point, high levels of stress can inhibit your performance, basically. So another thing that they said was that when you step outside your comfort zone, that two things can happen. You can become a magnet, you attract people who are like-minded, who can help you fast track into what you're trying to do or the behavior you're trying to mimic. And you can kind of fast track your way towards achieving those goals or achieving that whatever type of person you're trying to be. The second thing is that you can also be that person for somebody else. So if you are in this stage of your life or doing certain things that maybe somebody who hasn't gotten to that point has, you can help them to grow. You can help them to get to that point where you are, or basically when you are at a certain point, you not only are being lifted up by those who you perceive as at a further point in life, but you can lift those up that are behind you. You kind of can make a positive impact on those around you, not even necessarily always knowing it. So another thing was we also have no control over the length of our lives, but we do have control over the breadth and the depth of it. So my perception of that was, we don't know how long we're going to be on this world, on this earth, on this planet, whatever the heck you want to say. No matter what you believe, you don't know for sure how long you have. But you do have control over what you do with your life. To an extent, you have control of how you perceive it, how you react to it, how you deal with it, or whatever. Like, you can't necessarily control what happens to you. You can control what you can do in response to whatever does happen to you. With that being said, there are areas where being too comfortable can be more harm than good. Sometimes you get complacent, you get stuck in where you are, and it can be worse for you to stay stuck in a place that may be comfortable or familiar. And when you stay stuck in that place, you might not be hurting yourself per se, but you could be missing out on something that could be way better for you. And even in an extreme sense, you might be stuck in a place of familiarity, even if it is something that isn't healthy for you, even if it is something that isn't good for you or it's actually damaging you, but your mind is telling you, I'm more comfortable or I feel safer in a place that I know for sure what's going to happen. I have a sense of control. I know what's going to happen. I know what is likely to happen, or I know how to deal with, or that I have experience with, over something that's unfamiliar that may be better for you, may be healthier for you, but I still don't know for sure what's happening. I'm not familiar with it. I don't have any experience with it, even though it is better for you. And that's where that fear kind of creeps in. With that, your mind can kind of work for you or against you. You have control over what you think or how you think about certain things. It's about reframing. It's about taking that time to actually think about how you want to perceive things or how you want to look at things and how you want to move forward with that. You can't leave it up to chance of, oh, eventually I'll get to a place, but never put any work into it. You have to literally consciously work to get your mind to that place, because subconsciously you're going to always revert to what your norm is. So you have to consciously work towards that until it becomes subconscious for you to do the things that are healthy or good for you. Fail, acronym for fail. First attempt at learning. That is so true, because I feel like a lot of successful people always say, oh, you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to fail. And I feel like some of it comes from the luxury or the privilege of having the means to be able to fail and still be okay. And depending on your circumstances, your privileges, or lack thereof, you might not have the chance or the opportunity to fail and be okay, and it might do more damage. But at the same time, certain risks are worth taking, because you might be stuck between a rock and a hard place, but at the same time you have to weigh your options. Like, what is worse, me staying stuck in this place or being comfortable in this place that isn't good for me, isn't serving me, isn't getting me anywhere that I want to go, or taking the risk of maybe getting to a better place, or maybe doing better for myself, or elevating myself, or even at the bare minimum learning a lesson that can improve my mentality or my lifestyle or my heart. I don't know, anything of that sort. I just learned that it's not necessarily about the fear of failure, because we are always going to be afraid to fail. And actually, failing is inevitable, because nobody's life is perfect. We're not always going to get everything right every single time and never have any strife or struggle or anything. Like, we're going to fail somewhere along the way. It's inevitable. We're going to be afraid to fail. If you're not, I mean, lucky you get a cookie. But for the rest of us, we're most likely going to be afraid to fail. But what they're saying and what I'm saying and what I'm saying to myself is that it's not about teaching yourself to not be afraid to fail, or teaching yourself how to avoid failure at all costs. It's about teaching yourself how to react to that failure, or how to control how you react or behave in response to that failure. What do you do after you failed? I mean, you can do some preventive work to avoid failure in the first place, but you can't be so hell bent on it that you're so in the preparation phase that you never actually take that leap and go forward with the actual thing that you're trying to do. I'm going to get into a few tips that I found, and I'm just going to basically address each tip and then share my own interpretation and give my own little advice on it. I found a list on the Forbes website called 18 Actionable Steps for Stepping Outside of Your Comfort Zone. So number 1 is surround yourself with confident people. Basically, it says that associating with or being around confident people can challenge your subconscious to take more risk and be more confident. You're more likely to adapt to the behaviors of those confident people. It's like birds of a feather flock together, basically. You might not just completely adapt or pick up somebody else's personality just because you're around them. You are more likely to exhibit some of the same behaviors or learn behaviors from being around people who are more confident, who are stepping out their comfort zone more often, who are doing things regardless of how afraid it makes them feel. I think that when you surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do, or are behaving in the way that you want to be, or maybe even be a role model or whatever for you, not only will that help you to kind of take on that mindset, to kind of take on how they behave and their actions or whatever, but they can also assist you to get into that place of where you want to be and pulling you up and helping you assist you to be whoever you want to be. And I think it's just a good thing to have, like a positive role model for. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be around people who are just not doing anything with their lives, are kind of stuck and just complacent, and looks at them and say, yeah, I want to do that. No. And I'm not even saying you have to be the most ambitious person, because I'm not the most ambitious person. I'm not out here striving to be a billionaire by the time I'm 25. No, but I want better for my life, and I want to be surrounded by people who want the same. Just saying. And they always say, like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, or you don't want to be the best or most accomplished person in this room. And in some rooms you might be, and that might be the room where you're helping pull other people up. But you also want to be able to enter other rooms where you're not the smartest. Potentially you could have a well-rounded group where some person might be the smartest when it comes to certain things, and another person might be smarter in another thing. But y'all are well-rounded in these different areas so that you guys can kind of support and uplift each other in where people maybe fall short. So the next step is take it step by step. This one basically was just talking about you don't want to compare yourself to others that might be further along than you. You want to focus on taking small steps to get where you want to be, and then also acknowledging the steps that you've taken. So this is kind of very common, especially among the culture that we're in now with social media, and seeing like a lot of people blow up and a lot of people get success and a lot of people are getting money and doing all these amazing, wonderful things at younger and younger ages, getting a lot more exposure. We're a lot easily able to see people kind of what seems like, if you haven't been following along with people's lives or whatever, but like seems like instant gratification, instant blow up, success, overnight success type things and success stories. And I know as a young person looking at these people, it comes to down to like that mindset of like, dang, well, why aren't I, like, I must be doing something wrong. Like, I'm not at the level that they're at. And you just instantly get in this comparing type of mindset. And that's not the healthiest thing to do, because you have to realize that while you might see it here and there, and maybe often even, that isn't necessarily the rule. Like, they're the exception to the rule. And even if it was common, everybody is on their own pace. Everybody has their own life of where they're going and where they've been, right? So they might have opportunities that you don't have. You might have opportunities that they don't have. They might have had the support. They might have had the income or the financial backing or whatever. They might have had something, whether it was them personally or their environment, that could have contributed to where they are now. Either way, they don't got nothing to do with you. You got your own support, you got your own environment, you got your own privileges in life and whatever. So at the end of the day, comparing to them is not going to do anything if you're not actively, unless you're using it as strictly motivation to like, okay, they're doing this, what can I do in my life, or what can I take from them or learn from them to implement in my life to step my game up, basically. You gotta take it for what it is. Like, they're doing good. Great. That's very good for them. That is amazing that they were able to do that and accomplish that. But what can I do? What have I done? We have to take those times to really acknowledge what we have done for ourselves. And everything is so fast paced. You know, everybody's posting their accomplishments, looking their best, and putting their best foot forward when it comes to like social media and presenting it to others, right? That's what we usually do. That's the norm, whatever. But when it comes to ourselves, we need to actually sit down and think about, wow, I actually did this. I did that. I accomplished this amazing thing, or I took this step, no matter how small. It was a step further than it was yesterday. And I'm going to be proud about it. And that's all you got to do. Just take it little by little and stop comparing yourself to others, especially if they are further along than you. Like, you might be comparing yourself to somebody who maybe they might be younger than you, or they might be around the same age as you, but they might have started way younger than when you did, or way sooner than you did, or put in a lot more work than you did, or that you are at this point in time. So you're comparing apples to oranges at this point. What's the point? The next tip was consider the worst that could happen. When stepping outside of your comfort zone, you have to think about, like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Is it literally just me being uncomfortable, or something worse? And then you have to think about what's the best that can happen. And is that risk worth it? Like I said earlier, you have to weigh your options of, okay, is the worst thing that bad? Even if it is the good thing or the best thing that could happen that good that it's worth taking that risk? And I know this is something that I have to work on a lot, because sometimes that, like, social anxiety and just worrying about, or just being in your head so much, can get in the way of being able to do certain things. Like, when it comes to me, like, I feel like my biggest thing is like that social anxiety of being an introvert, and like trying to reach out to people or talk to people or communicate with other people is hard for me. And that's a barrier that I'm trying to get over. It's a work in progress, but I have to literally take it step by step and do little things here and there and kind of push myself to get outside my comfort zone so I can actually do something about it. Cause I don't want to, obviously, I acknowledge that there's a problem or a behavior that I don't want to continue. So I need to do something to propel me into this other behavior that I want to display. So another tip was start small to create habits. So basically, you need to trick your brain into being motivated. Sometimes things can seem elaborate or overwhelming if it seems like it's a lot going on. So you got to kind of break it down and condense it so that it isn't so overwhelming or isn't so complicated. You kind of trick your brain into feeling like it's achievable. And this can allow your brain to feel more accomplished because you feel like you're achieving those small steps. And when you achieve those small steps, you're going to feel motivated. You're going to get that sense, that reward in your head to be like, okay, I'm doing something. I'm progressing. I'm not just staying stuck and getting overwhelmed and just tossing it to the wayside. I'm actually doing something. I'm getting closer and closer to that goal, and I'm actually making a change in those habits. I love to make a list. I love to make a little steps and everything. Like, y'all saw, I don't know if y'all saw, but y'all can go to the first video where I literally broke down, okay, all the things that I want to accomplish this year. Here are the major things. Here are the subcategories of those things. Here are the steps I can take to get to each thing. And here's how I can do each of those steps within these months or this time period or whatever. Like, it's literally, it sounds like a lot, and to many it may be, but for me, I'm not looking at that whole big list of things. I'm looking at, okay, I broke it down and I broke it down again and then I broke it down again. Okay, now I only have to focus on this little bitty piece. And I can work my way through that. And then once I'm done with that, I can move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's not to say it's going to be perfect, because I'm still working on being productive and accomplishing those tasks and those goals and stepping out of my comfort zone. But sometimes it helps to break stuff down so it can be less overwhelming, so it can feel more achievable. And you kind of have to figure out how you process things and how your brain works, because everybody has to personalize it to them. You have to do what works for you, whatever works for you to make you successful, or what can help you to get to that next place. The next tip was to reward yourself for doing uncomfortable things. Another thing to help you keep up those habits that you're trying to learn, those behaviors or anything that you want to continue doing, you have to reward yourself. Your brain is going to work like, okay, if I'm constantly doing something I don't like, it doesn't make me feel good, I'm not getting anything out of this reward wise, why would I keep doing it? Your brain is going to automatically default to familiar. What's familiar, what is known already, what they're used to. So, for if you reward yourself, that'll help you keep up what you're trying to do. So, whenever you complete a task or do something outside of your comfort zone or whatever, make sure to give yourself a reward. Obviously, don't make it counterproductive to what you're trying to do or what your goal is or what you're trying to achieve, but give yourself some type of reward. Like, oh, if I went to some event and talked to somebody I don't know by myself, okay, what would my reward be? I don't know. Maybe I'll buy that skincare item I've been looking at. Or maybe I'll buy some hair or something. I don't know. But figure out something that's not counterproductive to what you're trying to do. Don't be like, oh, I talked to somebody that I don't know at some event. Now I can reward myself by staying in the house for the next 3 weeks. You don't want to take a step forward, just take 2 steps back. That's counterproductive. The next tip was tune into your desired reality. So this tip basically said to ask yourself, what is it that you really desire? And then what are the things that you need to get to that desired reality? And it's kind of like when I was talking about earlier, you need to make plans to help you get there and then take incremental steps to get there or take action to get there. So you can list and plan all you want, but until you actually take the time and really think about what you want. What is it that I truly desire? Why do I want this? You have to really think about, like, is this something that I really want? Is it something that I'm really passionate about? Why do I really want to accomplish this? Like, is this something that I feel like is really going to make my life better? Because until you really break down what you really want out of life, you might just be lying to yourself about what you think you want, which is steering you off of your actual reality that you want to get to. Because there's no point in lying to yourself or trying to convince yourself that you want something, maybe because of outside influence, maybe because of the environment that you're in or other people around you and what they're doing, when in reality you want something else. And all the while you're working towards getting to something that you think you want or you haven't put much thought into. And who knows, they might coincide or be similar, but they might be very different. And you could be working towards something that is not what you really want to do. So really sit down and think about what you want out of life so that you can put the energy and effort into doing that thing you really want to do. Not the thing that you think or you haven't really thought about. So, yeah, picture your reality. Really perceive it, imagine it, think about it, picture it in your head, and then get to the root and then figure it out from there. Okay, I know what the end result is going to be. I'm right here. Here's the end result. What do I need to do to get between point A to point B? So another tip was to visualize a place where you feel calm. So this will help when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're feeling, maybe you're in that place where you're just feeling very uncomfortable. You might get a little sweaty, you might feel a little sick. You just don't feel right because obviously this is not something you're used to. This is something that is not normal for you and it makes you so uncomfortable. When you are able to visualize a place that makes you feel calm, whether it's an item, a place, or thinking of something that helps you to feel calm, that can help you in those moments or prepare you in those moments when you're in those stressful situations or experiencing something that is outside of your comfort zone. It can kind of bring peace to you to help lower those cortisol levels or those stress levels of however you're feeling so that you're able to get through it and not kind of just tank the experience with all this anxiety and stress of worrying about what this unfamiliar thing that you're doing and kind of just be present in the moment and experiencing this new thing for what it is. And who knows, you may learn that, oh, I just don't like it because this was something I just don't like. I'd rather have that type of experience rather than, oh, I don't think I like it because I just was so uncomfortable with doing something I'm not familiar with. Because did you really not like the thing that you were doing, or did you not like how the fact that it was unfamiliar and how you felt being in that unfamiliarity, or how you felt in that unfamiliar place? So the next step was to take a fail forward approach. So that basically said you need to seek environments that accept or allow failure. And environments like this will help you to manage your discomfort without feeling like you need to cure the discomfort. So I think that just kind of circles back to surrounding yourself with people that are okay with failure to an extent. Because you got to think some successful people, not all, whatever, but people who are at a place that would be considered success have dealt with failure. I doubt you'll find somebody who's in a successful place who hasn't dealt with failure at least once or twice or multiple times. So you would think, I'm not saying all, but you would think that if you surround yourself with people who are okay with failure or not necessarily promote it, but are okay with realizing that you're not going to get it right every single time, knowing that there is a process to it, that you're able to learn from that failure, then that'll help you to be more comfortable with, okay, I failed, but here's what I learned from it. Here's what I'm going to do going forward. Whereas if you're surrounded by people who are like, oh, if you fail, you're done. You're done. You're not doing anything. You can't do. You can't pick yourself up. You're stuck. You can only fail once and you're done. What is that going to get you? Like if you told a baby, "Oh, you're going to try to walk this one time. If you don't get it this one time, you're never going to walk again." You know how stupid that sounds? Certain stuff you literally have to keep getting up and trying and trying and trying and continue until you figure it out, until you get it. So just try to surround yourself with people and also be one of those people that doesn't shut people down if they fail once, right? Like obviously it's a case by case basis of to what extent people fail and how detrimental that might be to them. But in a lot of cases, you kind of have to have a good support system, but also be a good support system for other people so that if they do fail, you can help lift them back up because that can be a little damaging on your self-esteem or your pride, your ego, whatever, to make you not want to keep going. But if you have that support system who's around you that's like, okay, all right, dust yourself off, get back up and do whatever you got to do. What's the next step? Keep going. What's next? It's okay to feel bad, but don't stay in that state. The next tip was to elevate your risk tolerance. Or this tip basically said that you have to figure out what kind of person you are. Are you a risk taker or are you not a risk taker, I guess? Like if you are a jump right in person or a step by step or baby step type person, you have to evaluate what kind of person you are so that you can set up your support system based on that so that it could be more sustainable. The point is to be able to maintain those healthy changes and not yo-yo. For example, if you are someone who isn't a risk taker, it doesn't make sense to constantly and always be doing or putting yourself in situations where you're constantly taking a risk, taking a risk, taking a risk, or put in that uncomfortable situation because you're more than likely, unless you, I don't know, for some odd reason you just turn into a risk taker, but you're more than likely to retreat into your normal habits or ways of not taking risks. Because I know me, I live in safety and security. I love a good safe space. I'm not a risk taker. That is what it is. And I can work on that and I can learn to navigate to get to certain places, but you have to know yourself and what kind of person you are because you want it to last. You want these habits and changes to last. You're stepping out of your comfort zone for a reason. You're not doing it just to do it. I mean, I don't. The next tip was to acknowledge your fear. This tip kind of talks about acknowledging that you're afraid allows you to be fully present and focus on the task at hand. And it's important to stay in the uncomfortable learning zone without pushing yourself into the terror zone, because that can lead to being overwhelmed or even burnout. Being afraid is okay. There's nobody, I don't know anybody in the world that is going to say, oh, you're not allowed to be afraid. Being afraid doesn't get you anywhere. Like, you can't help how you feel. You feel how you feel. It's going to be scary. It is what it is. A lot of brave people are not brave because they're not afraid to do the thing. They're brave because regardless of being afraid, they still do the thing. The point is, you have to acknowledge that you're afraid of something to then be able to say, okay, I'm afraid, but I still am going to do this regardless. You're not brave because you're doing something that you're comfortable with or that you've done before or whatever. You're brave because regardless of being afraid, you're still going through with whatever you're afraid of. You're still persevering. You're still pushing forward and stepping into that uncomfortable zone. But the thing that you have to be aware of and stay in control of is making sure that you're not so hell bent on stepping outside your comfort zone and doing something that's abnormal from what you normally do to the point that you burn yourself out or you literally just recoil. It's such a shock to you or to your system or to your core that you just kind of recoil back into whatever you were at your starting phase. Because the point of branching out and stepping outside your comfort zone is you got to ease your way out there. Eventually you get to this place and you get to you're growing, right? You're growing and you're experiencing new things and it's new and it's different and whatever. And that's good. But if you rush out there before kind of learning the lessons along the way, picking up new things, experiencing new things, or you rush out there and you just instantly hit that crazy thing or new thing that's just overwhelming because you weren't ready for that yet, can be detrimental because it just kind of defeats the purpose. You're going to feel that overwhelming sensation of like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or that confirmation bias, like you're looking for something like, oh yeah, this confirms all the fears that I had in the first place of why I didn't do this or why I wasn't doing certain things or whatever. When in reality, if you would have taken your time and been cautious with yourself when you're stepping outside your comfort zone so that you can get that experience, get those lessons, get those new habits and behaviors gradually, you would have been fine. So the next tip is make incremental, increasingly challenging changes. So this one basically was just saying to start with the small changes and work up to stepping fully outside of your comfort zone. By taking small, gradual steps, you can make it seem less intimidating. So if there's this big thing that you want to accomplish or you want to do or want to change, what are the steps that you can take to get there instead of just jumping from A to B? If I want to wake up in the mornings so that I can go to the gym and do whatever routine or whatever, but I currently don't wake up that early. I'm not just going to say, oh, tomorrow I'm just going to wake up and do it. I'm going to work myself up to that. I am going to start to slowly wake up earlier and earlier every day, or I'm going to slowly start to go to sleep earlier and earlier every night. I'm going to make those steps because, I want it to be sustainable. I don't want to just jump right into it if it's not something I'm used to or whatever. Maybe you can. And if you want to try it that way, I mean, again, do what's best for you. But most of the time, you see the sustainability when you're gradually working towards getting to that goal or whatever, taking those small steps so that it's not such a shock to your system or to your core of what you're normally used to or familiar with. So another tip was to train your fearless muscle. This one was basically saying the more you face your fears or step outside of your comfort zone, the easier it'll get. And I think that's true. The more you do something, the more familiar you will get with it. Depending on what it is, the easier it'll become. It won't be that big of a deal to you to do. It just becomes a norm for you. And that'll become your new familiar thing, the new habit, the new behavior that you exhibit. And it just makes it easier. you kind of, as you go, as you continue to do that thing or whatever, the amount of fear that you have will decrease because you're going to be like, oh, well, I did it before and it wasn't as bad as I thought. Or I did it before and it was scary, but now I kind of know what I'm getting into. And then you just continually, gradually go from there. And I think the more you do stuff, the better it is. So the next tip was to find a role model to emulate. So that kind of goes back to surrounding yourself with the people who are like-minded or are where you want to be. This one is more focused on finding people who are inspiring or that motivate you. And then once you do find those people, take the action to do it yourself and then keep going, right? So if you find people that are doing the things that you want to do, take action to learn from them and kind of get tips from them, then do those things, right? Because you don't want to just go and find those people and just always learning and learning and learning and learning and learning and learning and learning, and then you never actually take those lessons and apply them, right? You want to apply them to whatever you're trying to achieve. Because if you're always being the student and never the teacher or the doer, then what is the point? Like, you're learning just to have it in your brain and sit there and waste it? No, you're learning so that you can apply it to your own life, and then hopefully you could become a teacher for somebody else who is trying to get to that point too. Take those lessons, use them, teach them. So the next tip was to remember what you want to achieve. So I think that kind of relates to visualizing where you want to go. This one was basically saying that you want to keep your goals and your accomplishments at the forefront of your mind, because that'll be the drive to keep you going and give you that confidence to step outside your comfort zone. When you're thinking about, if you're constantly thinking about where you want to go, what you've done thus far, that'll help you to keep going if you do come across a failure or if you do become uncomfortable in whatever place you're at or what you're doing. Remembering what you've done thus far can help you to be like, okay, I made it thus far. I'm going to keep going. I didn't come this far just to come this far, you know? I think that's what it's really trying to get you to understand, that you always got to think about where you're trying to go. What is the point? What is the purpose? I'm doing this to get to this place. So I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up that easy. I might be a little bit uncomfortable now, but eventually it's not going to be that uncomfortable, or it won't be uncomfortable at all because I've been doing this for however so long. So another tip was to partner with someone to learn a new skill. You are your own person. You are living your own life. At the end of the day, you have to deal with all the consequences of your own life, right? But that being said, if you are able to find someone who's trying to learn the same skill, or someone who can be a partner to help you be accountable in those beginning stages or whatever stage you're at, and keep you accountable alongside you holding yourself accountable, it'll help. Like, I think it's nothing wrong with having a partner that can help and assist you, who may have strengths where your weaknesses are, and vice versa. Y'all can help each other and help yourselves. Mutually beneficial relationship. So the next tip was to engage in gradual exposure practice. So this one is basically saying you want to gradually expose yourself to things that can be scary or new, because every time you face your fear, your brain records the evidence of success, and it weakens those neural pathways that are associated with fearing the situation. So this one kind of relates to that. The more you do something, the less afraid you'll be of it, because obviously, like, situations, unless it's like a life or death situation, I'm not saying do that, because I ain't. But there's situations where, like, okay, you did it, you were able to accomplish whatever you did, whatever you need to do, right? You stepped outside your comfort zone. And then the next time the opportunity or situation arises, you're going to be like, well, I did it before and I'm just fine now. Like, your brain is literally going to be like, okay, that's actually kind of familiar because I did that before and it wasn't that bad. I'm alive, I'm healthy, I am thriving. The more that you do it, the more it's going to be that familiar thing, the more it's going to be that familiar habit or familiar behavior, and you're going to literally become whatever you're trying to achieve because you're exposing yourself to it more and more and more. Or you're going to make yourself more likely to be able to continue those patterns or those behaviors. The next tip was to make the objective worthy of your discomfort. Again, what is the point? Is the end result or the behavior or the habit worth being uncomfortable? Don't make these changes for someone else. Like certain things, okay, you can make for someone else or whatever if it's for the better of maybe your relationship or your life together. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure that what you're doing is worth it. Because are you being uncomfortable and living your life in this discomfort or transitioning through this discomfort for someone else or for something that you don't really care about or something that doesn't benefit your life or isn't going to improve your life? Or are you doing it because it is going to better your life? Or are you doing it because it is going to make your life better in the long run? It's going to make your relationships better in the long run, which is going to, again, make your life better in the long run. This tip basically says that focusing on the why rather than the how allows you to make mistakes without feeling like you have to have everything perfect in order to achieve that goal. This can help you realize that you're allowed to fail on the way to your goal. What matters is getting to the goal, not if you were able to do it without mistakes. If you're so focused on getting every single thing perfect along the way, then you're more likely to be like, "Ugh, I didn't do it right this time, so obviously, like, I'm not gonna be able to do it." When in reality, it's just you're new to this. Obviously, you're not gonna get it right every step of the way, but that doesn't mean you can't keep going until you get to your desired goal, right? Like, failure is inevitable. You're not going to get everything right every single time or every single step of the way. And by focusing on why I want to do this because I want to get here. This is going to make my life better. This is going to improve me as a person. Or then you're going to have that purpose, that sense of motivation and desire that even if I do fail, my why still is there. I'm still yearning for that goal or to achieve that goal versus if you're not focusing on the why, you're focusing on, okay, what do I need to do? The steps only. Okay, I did this. Oh, I messed up. Dang. Maybe I should give up. I ain't did all right. No. Because if you got that why is your anchor, really, when you think about it. The why is the anchor that keeps you going. It's that motivation, it's that dedication, it's the anchor. Like it's gonna keep you grounded into, okay, this is why I'm continuing this journey. Obviously, if the why changes or for some reason the goal changes or whatever, you're allowed to evolve and change and whatever. If whatever you were trying to achieve or get to no longer is that important to you or it's not of value, it's not worth that discomfort, then obviously you can grow and evolve to change to say, okay, this is not worth it anymore. I have a new goal. I have a new why. That's fine. You're allowed to evolve. You're a person, you're a human. If you don't change, if you're the same exact person that you were years ago to now, not saying that you're a bad person because you might not have been bad to begin with, but why are you the same? Like, how are you not constantly working on yourself or getting better in any degree, in any aspect? I'm not saying education or mentally or spiritually or anything like that, physically. There's so many different ways to grow. How are you not growing in at least one aspect of your life so that you're the same exact person? You had to have grown at least a little bit in some aspect of your life. If not, then you're just content in being wherever you're at. And I don't know if that's necessarily the healthiest thing 'Cause it's not like necessarily saying, "Oh, I'm content, I'm happy, I am whatever." Because even those people who are content and happy with their lives are still growing and learning from their experiences, from their lives, and their growth could be in helping other people to achieve that. That can be growth in itself. So growth isn't always being what's the next best thing, you know? It's not always trying to chase that next best thing. Our last tip was to bring along something familiar. So when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, this kind of relates to imagining that place that makes you calm, right? So this one basically talks about incorporating something familiar can add or bring comfort to something uncomfortable or new. So a lot of people have like keepsakes or something. Like if they have like their special necklace, if they go somewhere and they're nervous, they'll just grab it or touch it. And that kind of brings that sense of familiarity to an unfamiliar situation, and it brings that calmness. It helps them to become more grounded and feel more safe and secure and familiar in that unfamiliar place. I think at the end of the day, it's about figuring out those ways that can help you feel safe and secure while stepping into this uncomfortable zone of your life or phase of your life. Stepping outside of your comfort zone isn't always going to be a constant thing, but it's taking those actionable steps here and there where you see fit and doing the best you can in your life to get to that point, right? So I say that all that to say that I am literally working on stepping outside of my comfort zone. And this is proof of it. Literally, me posting videos and being on social media has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I've always gotten in my way and stayed in that preparation phase of trying to be perfect or do whatever I need to do to get to that point. But so much it went to my detriment. I wasn't really doing anything. Is I'm just now starting to get into this, and I've been talking about this for years. So yeah, we're getting outside of our comfort zone, guys. We're stepping outside of our comfort zone, and yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this little rant TED Talk session about stepping outside your comfort zone. I hope you guys can take these tips and apply them to your own life. Take it step by step, rewind, replay, whatever. Go back, pick out whatever tips that you like. At the end of the day, I just want you guys to feel like you can learn something, grow, and implement these changes and habits into your own life. That just about sums up my thoughts on stepping outside your comfort zone. I'm sure there's plenty more that I could get into or that I haven't discussed, but I just encourage you guys to have these conversations with your friends and family and try to find people who are like-minded and doing the things that you're trying to do. Just engage and interact with those people and take those steps to get where you want to be, because life is a marathon, not a sprint. Take the time to figure out what you want, how to get there, and then do it. It's okay to be afraid to fail, but we have to keep going. And at the end of the day, who wants to be stuck in the same place we were previously? Not me. So just remember that there's room for improvement and elevation. But yeah, all right, guys, let me know in the comments what your goals are or what steps you're taking to get there. And make sure to subscribe to see more of Let's Talk About It. And please like and share so we can create a community of like-minded people. So yeah. All right. Bye, y'all.